What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? You already know what time it is. This is your boy, the historian Ryan Walker. I apologize about the time change or whatnot, but we do have Mr. Mecklenburg in the house. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm gonna go ahead and get the show started. Y'all just go ahead and enjoy this real quick. We got you covered. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Okay, y'all, this is it.
What's going on? This is your boy, the historian. We have a special guest in the building today. We have six-time Pro Bowler, three-time AFC champion, Mr. Karl Mecklenburg in the building today. How you doing, Mr. Mecklenburg? Welcome to the BirdCage.
Good, Ryan. Thank you.
Hey, so normally, like I said, so we can go ahead and get into this, Broncos Falcons this week. So it's only right that we have a legendary Bronco linebacker in the building today.
Do you know, Ryan, I actually was going to be drafted by Atlanta. They had talked to me about it. They said if I was still available in the fifth or sixth round, they'd draft me. But their first two draft picks in 1983 were defensive linemen, and that's what I played at the time. So they let me go. But I could have been out there.
Man, you know what? We'd have loved you as a Falcon because, man, the hits that I watched as a kid, I'm 37, so I got to watch you in the latter half of your career. And I mean, wow. I even said I used to watch the Broncos as a kid, even though I'm a Falcons fan, but I'm a fan of the game, as I told you. I used to just watch you come off the edge, hit running backs. The one hit that I remember the most is when you hit the legendary Marcus Allen. Still to this day, I remember that hit.
That was my first game ever as a linebacker. Like I said, I was drafted as a nose guard. They moved me to defensive end, made the team as a third down pass rusher and a special teams player. Randy Gradishar retired, and they were looking for a linebacker, and they saw some things in me that I didn't know I could do. But that was my first game ever as a linebacker. The Fox television program, the Fox Sports List, listed that as one of the top 10 hits in NFL history.
Yes,
I didn't even know what I was doing yet, but I was a linebacker. I hit some people.
I mean, when you come off the edge with an attitude like you did at that time, it's a beautiful thing when you see that. Like I said, I'm a former defensive player. I played safety and corner, but I love being a safety. I like coming down in the box with you guys or whatnot and thumping. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, we had a couple. We had Dennis Smith and Steve Atwater behind me. I would hold up a running back and be screaming at him, get down, here they come," because I didn't want to get hit by those guys.
Friendly fire with Steve Atwater and Mr. Dennis Smith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we get to your career and start talking about the football side, what was that hit like when Steve Atwater hit Christian Okoye? I know you get that all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it was loud. I mean it was like a gun going off next to me. Big hit, and Okoye was a big, strong man and fast, but he had no side to side at all. I mean, no wiggle. And you could take, if you knew the angle, you could take the angle and just not slow down. And he actually never finished a game against the Broncos. He was always ended up getting hurt because that's a dangerous thing, man. If you can't dodge, and we know you can't dodge, you better get down. And he wasn't going to get down. He was going to try to run through people.
Oh man. So with you, most of the folks don't really, unless they're Bronco fans, but I'm gonna go ahead and educate you guys. This gentleman born in Seattle, Washington, and raised in Minneapolis, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
So with you growing up in Minneapolis, and most of us Falcon fans or just music fans, we think of Prince, Morris Day and the Time, and those guys, and just the Minneapolis funk, as well as the Purple People Eaters. What was it like growing up in the Minneapolis area, and how did you get into sports?
I loved football from the time I was first given a chance to play. I was 10 years old. I remember my dad come to the game, and he got there a little late, and I was already done playing my very first game. And I comes to the sidelines and asked me what I thought about football. This is 10-year-old Karl, and my response was, "Dad, I really love to smash guys." I was a linebacker, so that was my game. So I really enjoyed that part of it. Prince went to Central. I went to Washburn for a couple years. We played each other in basketball. I knew who he was. I was already gone by the time he was huge, from a music standpoint, but he was a pretty good little basketball player.
Yeah. A lot of folks talk about that, and it's just crazy when you sit back and you look at that, but all the talent that has come out of that area, from music to sports, wrestling, and just growing up in that area. I visited Minneapolis. I had a great time when I went, enjoyed it. Very beautiful place. I didn't go when it was too cold, but it was.
Yeah. In the NFL, probably at least 2/3 of the guys, probably more than that, are from the South, and playing. I played in snow, and I played in ice, and I played at Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and then I played at Minnesota, and it was outdoors. And I don't mind cold. I'd much prefer cold to hot. Actually, you don't get tired. You keep and all those Southern guys, man, they're scared to death of the cold. They're putting on plastic bags on their feet and 3 layers of shirts and all this stuff. And I'm like, I got you already.
Man, so growing up or whatnot, we're big on military. I also read up that your dad served in the military at one point too.
Yeah. That was the moving around as a kid. I was born in Seattle and Fort Lewis, and my dad was and my uncle were in the armed services, and thank you to everybody who served, just getting by Veterans Day here. So yeah, thanks fellas.
No problem. I got a couple of meals off of that too. So, I just kind of chuckle about it. It was, when you talk about the cold, I was stationed in Kodiak, Alaska, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So I'm a Southern guy that got put in the cold. So I get it when you say that cold weather is very, very different.
Oh, no question.
If you didn't grow up in
it, no question. And I think it's psychological as much as anything. My wife grew up in Minnesota, and then she moved to San Diego. She went to UC San Diego for a couple of years, and got soft. It happens fast when you get in that warm weather.
And So, getting to it now, when you were in high school, you moved. I mean, you guys moved around till you got to Minneapolis or whatnot, and you started playing football. Who was a player that inspired you to continue to keep playing football, and what drove you to work to just get better? And just did you see yourself playing in the NFL one day?
Did I see myself? No. I mean, growing up, my favorite sport was hockey. As a little kid, I was a goalie. He's the big kid; he can carry the pads home. So that was me. So if I saw myself playing for anybody, it was the Minnesota North Stars, who were a pro hockey team at that point. But I love football. I love the contact of it. And I overcame. I mean, I played JV as a junior in high school. I made the varsity team, was all state as a tight end and a defensive end, but I was only 6 feet tall and 200 pounds when I graduated high school. So I wasn't big enough to play major college football. I went to Augustana College, a little Division II school in Sioux Falls. Grew 3 inches and 40 pounds my first year of college. Things changed. I got good. A couple years there. After my second year there, the coach came to me, kind of had that debriefing session that every coach has at the end of the season, sat me down. First thing out of his mouth was, "Karl, we know your dad's a doctor. He can afford this school. We're going to take away your scholarship and use it to bring someone else in." So I left Augustana and I walked on at the University of Minnesota. When I got there, Tony Dungy was a graduate assistant working with the walk-ons. So he was working with me. I got to work with Tony for a year. Mike Martz worked in our film room. Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. I mean, we had some coaches, and we weren't very good, but we had some great coaches. And I learned a lot. Turned into a pass rusher. One of my coaches there was pointed out to me, and he had a little cup of coffee in the NFL. He pointed out if you can rush a passer, they'll find a spot for you in the NFL. My junior year, I led the Big Ten in sacks, tied with Andre Tippett. My senior year, we lost by so often that nobody passed the ball, so I didn't rush the passer. But I was drafted in the 12th round. I was the 310th pick of the draft.
Wow!
Nobody expected me to make it. Except myself, and I'd overcome, and this was football. It was just a different level. I found through the stages of football, from high school to college to pro football, every step is a bigger mental step, and that's what I could handle. The mental piece of it was what I was best at. And at one point in my career with Joe Collier, our defensive coordinator, he had me playing all 7 defensive front positions, moving around depending on the alignment, on their substitutions, on their weak points, so it was an awesome opportunity, coming from where I came from.
Mm-hmm. So with everything else that has happened or whatnot, when you talk about coming out of Minnesota, you talked about one of the legendary linebackers as well, Mr. Andre Tippett, and a lot of people tend to forget about that guy. He was another great one in the 80s, like yourself, Chip Banks. Everybody knows Lawrence Taylor. That's just a name that you just mentioned. But I feel as if you guys are the 3 that I just named: Chip Banks, yourself, and Mr. Tippett or whatnot. You guys don't get talked about enough. Honestly, you don't. And I think it's a crime that you guys don't get mentioned like that. And I think you guys are some of the best linebackers that the 80s produced. And I'll be honest, on my show, I support a lot of historically Black colleges and universities as well. So one of the school that I was supposed to go to before I went to the military, I was supposed to go to Southern University. I got hurt. And there was a gentleman that played for the Denver Broncos that came out of Southern by the name of Mr. Richard Tombstone Jackson, one of the best pass rushers outside of yourself in that Broncos uniform, and Mr. Lyle Alzado as well. Rest in peace.
Yeah, he was. Rich was special. He was the head slap guy. That's why they he would just tee off.
He always says Deacon Jones stole it from him. He said he got the money off of it. I was the one who started it, which I don't deny it. I don't deny it at all. Between him, Claude Humphrey and Deacon Jones, I do not deny it at all. So when you get to Denver after you graduate college and you're drafted or whatnot, when you get there, what was the pressure for you like when you got into training camp and when you were just trying to make the team at the time? What was your mindset of going there when you got to Denver?
Yeah, Ryan, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to make it. Truthfully, I fell right in there, started pass rushing, doing what I did, and really, I think earned the coaches' appreciation, except for the offensive coaches because I was messing up their drills. I remember Dan Reeves yelling at Coach Collier, "Get that 94." That was my number at the time. Get him out of there. Put somebody else in there. I was messing up there. So yeah, it. Tell you how it was. So I'm a 12th round draft pick, 310th pick of the draft. I go there. They had 110 guys out, so there's duplicate numbers. I got the same number as a starter. Not a good sign. I got a hole in one of my socks during training camp. First week of training camp, I go into the equipment manager, ask for another pair of socks. He said, "What's the matter with the other sock?" He only gave me one sock. That's where I stood. So, but first preseason game, we're playing Seattle. I'm playing in the third quarter. They put me in the third quarter as a defensive end. And Seattle's starter was still in the game, a guy named John Essing. I don't know why he was still in the game. He probably was overweight or, was under punishment of some sort. And I got 2 sacks and forced a fumble, was defensive player of the game. Started on our nickel defense from then on. So I got an opportunity and took advantage of it. And thank God the coaches saw it was more than just that, more than just a pass rusher, and moved me out to, inside linebacker, outside, all over the place, and had a great opportunity to make plays.
Oh man. So when you talk about it, I think the play, like we talked about at the beginning, that put you on the map was the hit against Marcus Allen. And honestly, I gotta, for me, I have to show the folks, because we do show footage on here too. So I was able to pull that for you. So I could go ahead and bring up a good memory. Fair use. This was the hit.
Not even in black and white.
Yep. It's not even in black and white. I got you on the color. See? Fair use.
Watched them for a lot of years now, twice a year. He loves the game and has a history of big plays against the Raiders. 1st and 10, Plucky with a lot of time, but he's running out of it. Luke's man. Incomplete pass. Marcus Allen still on the ground after that devastating shot. He isn't tough. He's up.
That's one of the hardest hits next to yours. Wilbur Marshall hitting Joe Ferguson. Like, you guys lived, when you talk about being a linebacker in the 80s, you had to have a signature shot that you put on somebody to put your name out there. You had to have a shot. That was yours. That was just beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a setup. I mean, Plunkett threw the ball over Marcus's head, and he just turned right to me. He didn't see me coming. And I've never seen that before then or after, but his eyeballs were just it was kind of scary, truthfully.
And not too many people hit him like that in a game.
Right. Well, like I said, he just didn't see me coming, and if he saw you coming, he was somebody who had a whole lot of shake. He wasn't going to be where he was when you got there.
Most definitely. And you played against one of my idols. The man who inspired me to play football was Walter Payton. That was my idol. Still to this day, love him.
Yeah, special guy. I tackled him in the Pro Bowl one time, and everybody's really chill in the Pro Bowl, right? And I'm on top of him. He's like, "Get off me, man!" He was still fired up.
Did he tie your shoes at the bottom of the pile? Because I heard he was notorious for that.
No, no, he did not.
No, that's cool. But talking about your time in Denver, you guys got to go to 3 Super Bowls, 3 AFC championship games. And through those AFC championship games, you guys went through a great Cleveland Browns team during the time you were there, and you guys were just as great with the talent that you guys had. And the initial one was 1986, pretty much. Well, I was born a few days after that game, but before that game, you guys played in Cleveland. What was the atmosphere like when you went to Cleveland, a historic city that was known for? I apologize, my camera's acting up. There we go. You guys went to Cleveland, in a historic city that was known for football, and they've had a lot of heartbreaks after 1964 when Jim Brown and those guys won their championship. You guys come in the city, you guys go out to dinner, and the Browns fans are heckling you at dinner.
No question. They drove around. We were in this tower hotel, and there was an alley out back, and they drove around our hotel all night long, honking their horns, trying to keep us awake. About a mile from that hotel is where the old Mistake by the Lake Stadium was, and we drove there on Saturday to just see the locker room and do a little walkthrough. And there's nobody down there. I mean, it's a ghost town. It's like somebody let off the atomic bomb. I mean, it was nothing. And then the next day on Sunday we go, and the whole path between our hotel and the stadium was lined with Browns fans, just cussing at us, barking at us, throwing dog bones at us. It was as hostile an environment as I've ever been at. There were dog bones 3 inches deep on our sideline. You got to leave your helmet on because you get hit with these big 6-inch milk bones coming flying out of the stands.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually the equipment manager scooped up a bunch of them and put them in a plastic bag for me that I brought home to my dog.
Hey, you don't have to spend no money on bones for the dogs.
My dog's taken care of for a year.
So in that game, we looked at, you, Jim Ryan, Rulon Jones, and you guys had a tall task on hand because you had Kevin Mack and you had Ernest Biner. And it just seemed like if one wasn't having a good game, the other one was having a good game. And that game in 86, it was Kevin Mack who had the big day that day. What was it like trying to stop this guy when you talk about size and speed? And you were talking about Christian Okoye didn't have any wiggle. He had some wiggle on him. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. He had great vision. Would definitely shake a little bit, but when you get to that level, when you're playing in a championship game, when you're playing a playoff game, they're going to be bringing it, right? There's no question about it. And I prefer a big back who tries to run me over. Barry Sanders, no, that's not what I want. Come on, bring it on, and we'll see what happens. So I didn't have a real problem with Kevin Mack, I'm sorry, I lost the other name, but yeah,
Ernest Biner, Mr. Biner.
Yeah, Ernest and Kevin both were solid NFL backs. Were guys that you could count on. They're not going to fumble. They're not gonna make mistakes. They're good blockers. They do what you want your back to do. So just solid running NFL running backs.
And the crazy part about it was when you talk about that ball game, some of my fellow BirdCage members are in here. They're looking at the interview. They're enjoying it so far. We got one of my guys that's going to be out. But talking about it, though, when you said it was very different when you look at how the game was. They had 3 backs, and then Herman Fontenot is the guy that's forgotten out of that backfield.
That's the rabbit, too. That's the guy I didn't want to see.
That's the guy that could shake you and run past you. That was your receiving back. And when you guys were able to get up on them, you guys were on the road, hostile environment, mistakes were going to be made in that game. But what pretty much kept you guys mentally together in that game when you guys were able to overcome the mistake on the fumble on that 1-yard line and John had to drive the field? You guys held Cleveland to a field goal, and that literally gave John the opportunity just to do what he does.
Yeah. And we'd seen it. It wasn't new. It was, our job defensively, and we took all kinds of chances and did all kinds of crazy stuff because we knew if we gave up a touchdown or whatever, we got behind a little bit. John was very capable of driving down the field and scoring in 60 seconds or less. I mean, just it was unbelievable. His clutch bone, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he would get it done one way or the other, and we'd seen it. And what a great teammate and a guy to play alongside for 12 years. I mean, that was my whole career. He was the first pick in '83. I was the 310th. We were both captains on the team, and we got it done together over and over and over. And it was so fun to be a part of that team. We were brothers, It was nobody gave up ever, and it was fun to be a part of that.
Okay. And with the way that game went, you guys unfortunately had to let down in that Super Bowl, and then you guys come back the next year, and then you get the home game over the Cleveland Browns. Now they got to come to you guys in '87,
right?
So you guys, first it was Kevin Mack, and then you got to deal with Ernest Biner having one of those days that day, and he kept him in the game. And as you said earlier, he rarely fumbles, but in that game, as much as, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan, so I don't like Alabama. So Jeremiah Castile, your teammate, I have no love for because he's a Crimson Tide guy. So I'm still a little hurt about the loss that we had earlier this year at Alabama. But he causes the fumble on that play.
150 pounds dripping wet. I mean, and he knew that if he tried to take him on face to face, he's going to just get bowled into the end zone. So instead, he goes for the ball and rips it out. And what an unbelievable play! What a clutch thing! It's a name that'll live on forever in Colorado. Just that one play, and I know. I know Ernest does some public speaking like I do, and he's got a book out called "Everybody Fumbles." It's what you do after your mistake rather than the mistake itself, and got a great story, and was a tough thing. I mean, to be remembered for that one play, like I'm remembered for the big hit on Marcus Allen. For some reason, after all the great plays he had in his career, he's remembered for that one.
I'll never remember Mr. Biner for that because, like I said, I'm a fan of the game, and true fans of the game knows what he brought to the table, and because he was a utility back. And when you talk about everything that goes on with being able to produce at a high level and to be to that point, he ended up with a Super Bowl ring with Washington. So a lot of people talk about the fumble, but they don't talk about the fact that he's still on the list, for having over 10,000 yards in his career. So one fumble you're remembered for, just like they remember Jackie Smith for the drop pass in the end zone in that Super Bowl, but the man is a Hall of Famer, But getting back to it, and speaking of Hall of Fame, you guys had 3 trips, unfortunately, didn't get it done. But with the great career that you've had, and you talk about you were 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro. You had 1,118 tackles, if I'm sure, with 79 sacks, and two touchdowns with 5 picks. That's what I remember right offhand. I can't remember if and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I can't remember how many forced fumbles you've had and fumble recoveries, but I do remember those stats.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been a semifinalist many times. Now I'm in the old guy group, so I don't have to go through those stages anymore. But I think one of the issues obviously was the losses in the Super Bowl. But the other issue for me is I played so many different positions. It's really hard to match me up with anybody. If I was a pass rusher all the time instead of in pass coverage a lot, which I was, then then I'd have more sacks. If I wasn't pass rushing all the time and I was dropping back, I'd have more interceptions. If I wasn't on the line half the time, I'd have more tackles. My statistics don't really match up with anybody, but I did something nobody else has ever done, and nobody else ever will do. I mean, that was a time and a place, and we had so many smart guys on that team. Because I had to play all 7 front positions, but that meant everybody else had to know too. If I was in your place, then you had to move over. All right. So it was a special team that I don't think that's possible to put together a team like that again, unless you really went out of your way to do it.
Wow. And when you look at the way that the game is played now, and you talk about guys that are specialists, like I would compare you with the way that they moved you around. I would have to compare that to the legendary Fred Dean, because they used him the same way with his teams that he played for back in the day. And as you said, you can't be unintelligent knowing 7 or 8 different positions, because one position alone, when you look at a playbook, it's about that thick. So for you to learn all of those positions, and you're a linebacker and an edge rusher, it shows the intelligence that you and that defense that you played with had, and how cerebral you guys were.
Yeah, Jay, they put me in at nose guard when we're playing a run and shoot team. I was a defensive tackle on nickel quite a bit. I was up, down, back, forth. It was a great opportunity, and the reason they did that was because most teams can tell what defense you're in based on your substitution. They know what they're going to see. At least it really narrows it down anyway. But I was able to move around, and all of a sudden I line up in a 3-4, and then I go down and put my hand on the ground. All of a sudden we're in a 4-3, and it totally changes their blocking, totally changes the play that they want to have. Or I could stand up and back up, and all of a sudden same thing. And it was a really really innovative thing that Joe Collier had us doing, and it unfortunately it didn't translate after 2 weeks of preparation when you have with the Super Bowl. Through the rest of it, we had people fooled a lot of times, for sure.
And outside of the Super Bowl losses that you were just mentioning, what does so when you talk about football and life go hand in hand, when you talk about different things and you look at how you face adversity and how you deal with so many things that come about that life throws at you, what was something that you took from the game of football and you applied to life, and you still apply it to this day, and it helps you not only get through, but helps you succeed in all facets of your life?
Wow. I am a professional speaker. I do 1 hour keynotes. I don't have time for that here, but to boil it down, success is overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams. To me, that is the lesson I learned from football. I wasn't the biggest guy. I wasn't the fastest guy, but I was decisive. I would take the first step in the right direction. I found out early on in my career, if you can take the first step in the right direction before anybody else does, all the angles change in your favor. The tight end can't pin you in. The guard can't cut you off. The fullback can't keep you from getting to the line. Everything changes. That's the same in life. If you prepare thoroughly, perform decisively, evaluate honestly, and adjust accordingly, you're going to have a chance to be successful. That honesty and forgiveness piece is tough. That's the one where most people get hung up. But in the NFL, you don't have any choice. Everything's on film. Everything's evaluated. You're sitting in there with your teammates, and the coaches screaming at you, going back and forth, what you did right, what you did wrong. And your job there is to make those adjustments. You make a mistake this week, fine. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't make the same mistake next week. Prepare thoroughly, perform decisively, evaluate honestly, and adjust accordingly. I guess that's the message I want to put out there.
That was a great message, because you just schooled me on some stuff. I might have to take some cash out of my pocket and put it in the tip jar today. That was cool. But so when you talk about that, you had the nickname the albino rhino as
Yes,
as a linebacker because of your hitting style. But how did you come about getting that nickname of the albino rhino? And what was your welcome to the NFL moment to where, like you were saying, you about the forgiveness part where you have to realize, like, okay, I'm here, I messed up, I got to fix this. What were those things for you like when you got there, and what was your welcome to the NFL moment, and how did you get that nickname?
Yeah. The overcoming piece, the making a mistake and living with that and getting better. That's my whole football experience. That's learning from the time I was 10 years old until I made the NFL. Every step was tough. Every step was challenging. And I'm convinced that the reason there's so many guys with difficult backgrounds that make it in the NFL is because they've overcome and they get to the NFL, and that first day in practice when you're against the veterans and someone just whoops you up and down, it's like, okay, here we go again. I've done this already. I can overcome, and I'm going to overcome. So for me, that first week of getting in up in Greeley, Colorado, and it's hot and it's 2 days, and I'm sweating and they're sweating and I'm making plays. At that point, had that first preseason game. I was defensive player of the game. John Elway was offensive player of the game. I made the team. I knew it. Everyone around me knew it. I belonged. So I guess that would be it. That first game, that somehow getting lined up against the starter was unbelievable. And I think people need to realize that not every day you're going to get an opportunity, but every day you have an opportunity to prepare. And when you're prepared, you can be decisive. You can go when it's time to go. And that was my opportunity. I had prepared my whole life to get a chance to line up against an NFL starter and show him what I could do. And I was ready. I think that preparation piece, that ability to be decisive and trust yourself and go. If you had to boil my career down to one thing, that would be it: decisiveness.
Okay. So I know your time is limited today because I know you got another obligation there. I got a couple of more questions for you. The next question I have for you is, who was the toughest player that you had to face? Whether it's offensive line, running back, tight end, it didn't matter. Who was the toughest player that you had to face that you did not look forward to, but you had to do? A man's got to do what a man's got to do.
Right, there you go. Yeah, there was a guy named John Hanna, was offensive guard for New England. That was just, it was like running into a tree stump.
Another Alabama boy.
Just hard. And they ran, back in the day, they used to run all these student body sweeps, kind of like they do in college, pulling the both guards, getting that fullback in front. And usually as a linebacker, you can kind of hide behind that defensive end, and that offensive lineman won't find you. Hannah would find you, and then bad things would happen to you.
Well, you know who his idol was, right? He always talked about it. And he's a Canton, Georgia boy that unfortunately went to Alabama. But he said Fuzzy Thurston, that used to play for the Green Bay Packers back in the day, was his idol. So when they would use him on a pulling sweep, he said, I wanted to be Fuzzy Thurston. And he always tried to emulate that very well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I remember playing that first game of the year at Canton, and Hannah was going into the Hall of Fame, and so he's riding around the track, and in the back of the convertible, they used to show the guy riding around the convertible.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes by and sees me out there, and he goes, "Mecklenburg, what are you still doing out there?" He was still heckling me.
It's just like Alabama boys. They do stuff, and then they just can't stop talking. I'm just making a joke about it. I got a friend of mine who's an Alabama fan. I'm just teasing him. And I got a good buddy of mine who's a former shipmate of mine. He's a diehard Denver Broncos fan. He had your jersey. His name is Sean Morris. That's like my brother right there. He looked out for me when we were on the ship. So Sean, this is Mr. Mecklenburg. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Take care, Sean. Go Broncos.
So, and the last thing I'm gonna talk to you about today, what do you think about Sunday's game between the Falcons and the Broncos? How do you see this game going?
Wow. The Broncos are still in the process of becoming a great team. I think they've got some pieces, they've got some stuff going on that, especially defensively, they're stout against the run. They can rush the passer. If they have their top four in the secondary, they're good. If they don't, not so good. So it's one of those things where I think the home field advantage at altitude helps a lot. Hopefully they've started to run a little bit of hurry up type offense, and I think hopefully they'll continue to do that at altitude, because that gives you a great advantage. There's nothing better as a Denver Bronco player than to look across the stadium, and on the other side on the bench, they're all sucking on the oxygen over there, and you're like, oh yeah, we got them now. I'm thinking that the Broncos have a good chance to win this game, but I think it's a pretty evenly matched thing, right? Kirk Cousins, I don't know. We've had so many quarterbacks come through here. I think he came through here at one point. I don't know, but there's been so many.
I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad he thought about coming to Denver with Sean Payton. He thought about it. I'm glad he didn't. Good Lord.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a bunch of guys, and I think finally they found the guy that's going to be here for a while. I really like Bo Nix's game. He's a smart kid. He's a leader. He's a kid who can threaten you with the run, but he's not trying to run all the time. He's somebody that you can tell the offense gathers around, and is going to be a good player for a long time.
So I'm gonna flip it on you real quick. So with the Falcons, we have Kirk Cousins, we have Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and we have Darnell Mooney. And Ray McLeod in the slot. When you look at the type of team that we have, and we also have a gentleman's son that you played against, Mr. Bruce Matthews' kid, Jake Matthews, still at that left tackle spot. But when you look at this Falcons offense, the strength of the offense is being able to run the ball. They're finding balance now with Kirk Cousins being able to throw a lot of bench routes, a lot of slant routes, and also a lot of corner routes because they're using the height. But with Darnell Mooney, it's the speed. But when you look at the running game that we run, a lot of counters, a lot of traps, quick pitches to Bijan. With you being a linebacker, how would you go about trying to stop that running game? Because Tyler Algier is, I'll say this: Tyler Algier would be your Ernest Biner type of back.
Yeah,
not the flashiest. He's got enough speed to get past you, run downhill, run you over. But Bijan is the guy that's going to. He's a mixture of Kevin Mack and Herman Fontenot. If I gotta put them together and bring it back to your playing days, how would you go about stopping a Falcons offense at this point?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the defensive line holding up. Especially when there's all the trapping going on and stuff. And the Broncos defensive line, they brought in a bunch of new guys, and they're really solid against the run. The linebackers, not as much. They've switched around a few guys. They've lost a couple to injury. Hopefully, from my standpoint, they'll be able to read those runs and put themselves in the right position. So much of playing linebacker is just being able to play behind the ball, not overcommit one way or the other, and make sure that you're taking the right angle, get your hands on them, get them on the ground. Tackling is a lost art in the NFL. It's to me anyway. They don't.
Thank you.
So many tackles are made without anybody grabbing anybody, and I don't know how you do that. I mean, for us, that getting your hands on the guy, that was the first thing. If they cut back, I'm gonna blow you up. Mm-hmm. I'm behind you. I cut off the angle, get my hands on you, and get you on the ground. I mean, that's how you tackle, and it's frustrating for me at times to watch today's linebackers. They're mostly coverage guys, right? There's so much more passing in the game, but when it comes down to actually making a tackle and standing up a good, tough, strong running back, you cannot duck your head, and you can't dive at their knees and stop your legs. That's the other thing. They never keep their legs going. You got to keep your legs going to tackle, man.
Agreed. We got a guy on our team that's kind of familiar, that's kind of similar to you, but the difference is you played linebacker and you played multiple spots. Is Troy Anderson. Troy was a football player at Wyoming. Montana. We ended up bringing him here, and they converted him into a linebacker. And I'm like, you can't convert a guy he only played, and he didn't even play a full year of linebacker, except in college. And then he comes to the league. It's like, you have to understand that is a whole nother. It's like you trying to learn the French language overnight. You can't do that. It's tough. He's got the physical intangibles, but when you talk about being able to read, react, like you say, fill holes, being able to tackle, his physical intangibles cover up a lot of deficiencies, but there's a lot of missed tackles and a lot of things. But I think he could be great if he was groomed a little bit better. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, no, I came up behind Randy Gradishar. I got to, that guy made more tackles than anybody's ever made in the NFL. And actually, one of the reasons he didn't get into the Hall of Fame right away is that nobody believed the numbers. They're like, no, that can't be right. Just like, well, it is right. but yeah, Randy was unbelievable with that. And Randy was not overpowering. Randy was just somebody who would fill the hole, get his hands on you, and you'd be down.
Yep. Well, I do appreciate you coming through today, Mr. Mecklenburg. We definitely would love to have you back. It was just like I said, I apologize. I was having some issues with the StreamYard a little earlier, but we got that fixed. So definitely appreciate you coming through. You could tell the folks a little bit about your public speaking business that you have, so they could actually get in touch with you, as well as try to get you to speak to functions, because we have a lot of folks that have functions, and definitely with the wisdom that you dropped today, we definitely need more of that put out here for us.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you can look me up at karlmecklenburg.com. There's some video there. There's video all over the place. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place as far as the internet goes. Talk about universal keys to success: teamwork, with leadership being the ultimate expression of teamwork. The courage to try new things, the courage to be decisive. Dedication, which I describe as hard work, constant learning, refusing to quit. Desire, that's the dream, the passion, the mission. Honesty and forgiveness with yourself, and self-evaluation with others. And finally, goal setting, reasonable, short-term, specific steps that get you to those desires, those passions, those missions. I've been doing this for longer than I played professional football. I've been a professional speaker for more than 20 years and love it. I get to perform and I never get hurt. It works out really well. Awesome. Yeah, I speak to all kinds of groups, industry groups, associations. I was just down in Atlanta, spoke for the Rural Cooperative Association down there, Electric Rural Cooperative Association. And yeah, I travel. I love it. Unfortunately, this month I've got 3 speeches in the North. I've got one in Bismarck, North Dakota in December. I've got one in Kearney, Nebraska in December, and in Minneapolis in December. So I don't know who's booking my stuff. Call me to Florida. Bring me down to Atlanta.
We got to get you in some warm weather and get you out there fishing. You know, I like I said, I love to fish outside of football too. So
that's
yes,
me.
sir.
I'm a big fisherman.
I got to get out to Colorado and get some freshwater fishing. And last time I did some stream fishing is when I was stationed in Kodiak, Alaska, and was pulling the king salmon up and was just enjoying it. Just had to kind of keep a bear rifle on me or whatnot and leave a fish or two when I saw him coming.
That's great.
That spray does nothing but make them mad.
It's seasoning. It's make you taste better.
Yes, it's seasoning. You're pretty much seasoning yourself for the bear. Well, right, I thank you for coming through, Mr. Mecklenburg. I definitely look forward to possibly trying to get you back on a little later maybe again one day.
Sounds great.
Yes, sir. I have my crew on next time. So thanks for coming through. We appreciate you, and best of luck on your speeches in the far north.
Take care.
Have a good one, sir. That was Mr. Karl Mecklenburg, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in today. We have our regular show tomorrow. speaking on the Falcons and the Broncos upcoming matchup. Just had to add a little twist to it today. Just bring a Broncos legend in the building or whatnot. It was definitely a pleasure to have him, and it was an honor just to be able to speak to him about some of his memories from playing the game, a little bit of wisdom for life, and a little bit of knowledge or whatnot. So we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in. You know how we get down, baby. You either get right or you get left. It's the Birdcage. We out.